who had contact with the Office of Naval Intelligence, started studying Russian while stationed in a high-security base in Japan, and then left the Marines and defected to Russia. 23 In Russia the soldier was treated well, was given an apartment and a job, and was able to get married. He also had his picture taken with an American tourist, Marie Hyde, who said she became lost while on her tour, a near impossibility in the 1960s Cold War Russia. The defector, who had been suspected of passing information on the U-2 flights to his Russian hosts, returned home without even a slap the power of the new Skull and Bones 301 on the wrist from his government. Instead he was given a loan by the government to buy a home with his Russian bride. He then got a series of jobs, with at least one requiring a security clearance. He also met George Demarenshield, who was connected in the oil business, and knew both George Bush and Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy. Demarenshield introduced Oswald to Michael Ralph Payne and Ruth Hyde Payne, both of whom belonged to the United World Federalists, which was started by Claude Meyer of the CIA. Another member of Meyer's United World Federalists was Priscilla Johnson, supposedly turned down for a CIA job because of her membership in United World Federalists. Johnson nevertheless turned up in Russia and met Oswald. 24 Michael Payne's mother was Ruth Forbes Payne, of the same family whose ships carried opium to China in the 19th century. Ruth Payne's brother, William Forbes, was on the board of United Fruit. On his father's side, Michael's ancestors include Gabbets, one of whom is a cousin who sat on the board of directors of United Fruit. Michael's wife, also named Ruth, was the daughter of William Avery Hyde. She was close to her husband's family, and in July 1963 went to Northern Ireland, the Forbes Kingdom of Woods Hole, to visit her mother-in-law, Ruth. Mother Ruth's best friend, Mary Bancroft, was not only in the CIA, but was also involved in a long-term relationship with Alan Dulles. Bancroft wrote all about her 20-year affair in her autobiography, My Life as a Spy. Bancroft's father was elected mayor of Cambridge 4 times, and was president of the Boston Elevated Railway. Her stepmother's stepfather was Clarence Walker Barron, who published Barron's and the Wall Street Journal. Bancroft's first husband worked as chief of United Fruit in Cuba, and her daughter married the son of Bonesman and Senator Robert Taft. 25 When Ruth Payne, wife of Michael, returned from Northern, the Paynes took in young Lee Harvey Oswald and his Russian wife, Marina. Ruth found her adopted defector a job in the Texas School Book Depository. Ruth and Michael also provided a key piece of evidence that would help convict their new friend, should the police department 302 from the sacred to the profane protect Oswald long enough to get him to trial. In a declassified document, an informant describes a phone call Michael made to Ruth right after the shooting, with Michael saying he didn't believe Oswald was involved, and that we both know who is responsible. 26 Why would Robert Kennedy ask if the CIA killed his brother? The CIA had caused the biggest plunder of John Kennedy's short presidency, the Bay of Pigs invasion. It caused Kennedy to dump Alan Dulles, who advised for the operation, and threatened to smash the CIA into 1,000,000 pieces. And it was also surprising when the committee set out to investigate the murder of the president was made up of O. Warren, who was beholden to the Teamsters, whom Robert Kennedy had investigated, Gerald Ford, who was also beholden to the Teamsters, and Alan Dulles. The CIA was a natural suspect in the assassination. The greatest piece of evidence in the Warren Commission investigation was what became known as the Zapruder film, which was quickly bought by Luce's Time/Life Corporation. The film showed President Kennedy's head snap in a way that could be caused only by a bullet from the right front. It was made to appear that the president's head was falling forward, indicating a shot from the rear, which meant that the frames in the film were reversed. 27 Later this reversal of frames was said to be an accident. After the Warren Commission fell out of favor with the thinking public, other commissions were set up to investigate the CIA and the growing amount of political assassinations in America. The newer evidence pointed to the involvement of intelligence in the Kennedy assassination, and forensic evidence showed the improbability of there being a single shooter. It is more likely that a 2 or 3 man hit team had been in place. Marita Lawrence testified that she was part of the operation, and named 2 of the CIA operatives, and a number of Cubans who were also involved. In her short and remarkable life, Lawrence had been lover of Fidel Castro, and then part of the CIA Operation 40 plot to kill him. At that time she was dating Venezuelan dictator Marcos Pérez, the power of the new Skull and Bones 303 Jimenez, whose government was so corrupt that even the Roman Catholic Church took issue with it. 28. How did Lawrence survive to testify? Her mother was Alice June Laughlin, a cousin of Henry Cabot Lodge, 29, and she worked for the NSC. 30. Lawrence testified to the Select Committee on Assassinations about the Operation 40 plot against the president. From the time I rejoined Operation 40, all I heard was, "We're going to get Kennedy." 31. She said no one would murder her because of her mother's power in the National Security Agency. 32. Among the series of strange deaths that took place shortly after JFK was murdered was that of Mary Pinchot Meyer, the ex-wife of Cord Meyer. Pinchot Meyer was murdered while walking along the Chesapeake and Ohio towpath. Georgetown murders are rare, but this one included some very strange circumstances and was never solved. Cord Meyer was the Yale-educated CIA agent who was linked to Ruth and Michael Paine through the United World Federalists, which he had founded before Dulles brought him into the CIA. Pinchot Meyer had been having an affair with JFK. Meyer was one of the most influential people in the CIA. Just after Pinchot Meyer's death, the CIA counterintelligence chief James G. Sangleton entered her house with a key he kept to the place, and took her diary. 33,34. Angleton was joined by Ben Bradley of the Washington Post, who was Pinchot Meyer's brother-in-law. Although a series of unlikely coincidences, no matter how suspicious, cannot be conclusive evidence of a conspiracy, it does suggest something that exists far from the eyes of the public. The coincidences point to an elite handful of interlocking relationships that have a hold over national affairs, a grip that most citizens could not imagine possible. The coincidences further suggest that the media, in the hands of such an elite, may stop far short of serious investigative reporting. That there is a conspiracy is not in doubt. There are numerous conspiracies. An elite class has always been in power and always will be. When the chauffeur of a Rockefeller pays more in taxes than the man he 304 from the sacred to the profane drives, the will of the elite is in evidence. When the House Select Committee on Assassinations concludes that the assassinations of Kennedy and Martin Luther King were conspiracies, but nothing further is done, this is more evidence. When officers of the D complain of being told to back off because they are causing a problem for the CIA, this gives evidence that a higher power that goes unchecked is in control. The fact that a nation allows itself to be ruled by an elite class has become old news to those being ruled, and has become a given to those who do not need to aspire to power, because it is already theirs. The story of the night that George W. Bush was sacked for entry in the Skull and Bones is told in Bill Minutaglio's First Son. George was not sure he wanted the rigor of meeting with fellow bonesmen 2 nights a week. He was already born into wealth, and, thanks to his father, into power. George told a fellow classmate that he would rather join gin and tonic. His father, probably anticipating his son's doubt, knocked on his door at 8 p.m. and told young George that it was time to do the right thing, to become a good man. George accepted. 35.